Back at the machines now, and we're going to sew our first strap. So we want, for regular straight stitching, we want our zero width. Okay, zero width up here, focus. 2.5 length and the straight stitch. Okay, all right, so we'll use that same setting for every time we do a regular straight stitch. Good. Now we're going to be sewing the one that is the finished edge at one end. So that's the waist tie, right? The neck strap is going to be raw edge like that at both ends. But the waist ties also have this at one end and the finished at the other. Okay, so we're going to start sewing. We'll be nice and close to the edge. Start sewing there with a little back tack, and then we'll come over to this corner and pivot and go all the way down nice and close to the edge. At this corner where that little yucky thread is sticking out, I'm going to try and tuck that in and sew it with it tucked in so it's really nice and clean. Alright, so starting this way, so we're starting at that closed corner, the folded corner. And I want my needle nice and close to the edge. So I don't know, you can find a guideline maybe somewhere on your presser foot. This little corner here you can feed the edge into. I'm just going to steer it so that the needle is close to the edge. Always hold your threads for the first few stitches and then reverse. Okay, so coming up to the edge, I want to go nice and slow because I'm going to have to do a pivot at that corner, right? Remember the pivot? You leave the needle down. See, the needle is in the lowest position, so that when I lift up the presser foot and turn, now I'm going to tuck those corners in like I said I would, and then put the presser foot back down. Now I continue on. Okay. Okay, so now I just have to race down this edge. I shouldn't say race, I'm going to sew down this edge, and as I go, I want to keep a bit of tension on the bottom layer. The bottom layer is going to get pulled along by the feed dogs, right? Remember those feed dogs are those little teeth underneath. They're going to pull the bottom, but this presser foot's going to push the top. So my strap's going to end up getting pushed and pulled like that. So to balance it out, I want to keep a little bit more tension on the bottom one. So I hold that, and then with my left hand I can just adjust the top to make sure my layers stay together. And it's pretty subtle difference. I'm not pulling on the bottom, just putting a tiny bit of tension. And on the top, I'm just adjusting to make sure my edges stay together. If the edges aren't together, I might think that I'm sewing close to the edge, but the bottom layer might not even get caught into the stitch. So it's just sew, pause, organize, sew, pause, organize. If my eye comes up, my foot comes up. All the way to the end. Now I don't have to sew across the raw edge because that's going to get caught into the apron. I'm just going to do a back tack at the very end. So a few stitches of reverse. Lift up. Sometimes you have to wiggle the wheel. Use your thread cutter and check it. Make sure you didn't miss the edge anywhere. And thread cutter that. If your corner is sticking out, don't be tempted to just cut it off because that means you can't fix it any other way. The little threads here, I can cut those threads off. That's not a problem. But that's what we want. One end looking like that for the two waist ties, and one end looking like that for the two waist ties. The next strap will have both ends looking like that. Okay? See what you can do.